The Nostalgia Test podcast is joined by special guest pop singer Kadence to help put 5 ska punk cover songs to the ultimate test. Welcome to the Nostalgia Test podcast, the show where 2 longtime friends put their mainstream pop culture past to the ultimate test, the Nostalgia Test. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Nostalgia Test podcast. I'm Dan Dissinger here in LA, and I'm here with my longtime friend and co-host Manny Coelho there in New York. Manny, how are you doing tonight?
What's up, Dan? Always doing great over here in New York. I'm excited. We got another music episode.
Love those
Staying
music
away
episodes.
from those movies. If you guys haven't checked it out, we did Rocky. We started our Rocky marathon. If you haven't checked it out, you're missing out. We had a great time with measuring the score. We did, it was episode 46. Dan, I remember the episode number this time.
You remember the episode number. You remember that we're on the podcast and not in your brewery. This is all good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, everything's going great here. I haven't been...
Yeah, and everyone should notice that, like, the sound is so much better. Got my microphone after a full year away from my
Man, we've been
office,
talking
and we're
about
good
this
to go.
forever. I'm so glad you were allowed to go out and go get that mic.
So happy.
When you like spoke into it before, I was like, oh, there it is.
It's awesome,
there
right?
It is.
It's like,
but listen,
like,
I'm so excited. We got a music episode, and it's a
Yes.
list, ladies and gentlemen. So everyone loves our lists, and it's a guest episode.
Yeah, we're really excited about this next get with our guest today. We're here with pop singer Kadence, and Kadence is there in Virginia. Thank you so much for coming. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Doing awesome. So excited to be here. Thanks, guys.
Oh, great to have you. We're super excited. I mean, it's always great to have a musician when we have these music episodes because Manny and I totally not.
Is it
musically
though,
inclined.
Dan? Because I always feel I'm like, man, the musicians are going to just show how bad we are at talking about music.
I think non-musicians can be great pop culture critics. So
That's true.
Thank you. I think we're doing a pretty good job, Manny. I mean,
I think we are.
Kadence is telling us we're doing a good job. I think we'll take his word
Kadence,
for it.
tell us a little bit about yourself. Let people know where they can follow you. Your new single's coming out, so
yeah,
give us a little info about you.
Yeah, so I was born and raised on Long Island, New York, and yeah,
This is a Long Island episode, guys.
It's
Long
a
Island
thing. And I started
fist pumping.
actually,
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I started my career actually as a dancer, and so I went to a high school for the performing arts, and pursued intense dance for several years. And I mean, I had a couple opportunities to sing, and I sang, and I knew I could sing, but it just hadn't clicked yet that I was supposed to. But at the age of 19, I began to sing and record demos, and I was in a couple boy bands. I had I sang in some great R&B soul clubs in New York City, and then fell in love and got married. And so I took a break to have a family, and it's just been a cool chain of events in the last year that have led me to pick back up my dream and start writing and producing again. So I released my first single. It's Broken, and it's Kadence with a K. You can find it on Apple Music, Spotify, any download platform. And excited about that. We did a 4-week marketing campaign, and there was 160,000 streams. So I was really, really pleased with that. And now we're set to release my next single, "Sign Me Up," on June 4th. So that's
awesome.
That's the brief. That's the Reader's Digest.
That's a brief
version.
one.
Yeah.
So you started a family. What were you doing in between? I went to school for film. I became an electrician for 18 years. Started a brewery 5 years ago.
Shameless plugs.
It's LITHOLGY Brewing.
Nice.
But what were you doing in between?
So I'm one of those people that get bored quickly, and so I've done quite a bit. I was in the restaurant business for 10 years, managed restaurants on the Upper East Side of New York, and Upper West Side, Lower East Side. And I'm also a real estate agent. And so, I've kind of had multiple streams of income working for me in my life, raising 4 kids. So I had 4 and 8 years, yeah.
4 kids?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just told my son, who's playing the Xbox in the room next door, I'm like, if I hear you curse or throw that remote one time, I'm doing a podcast. You know?
Oh, wow.
So it's amazing how behind the scenes we've got these other lives going on, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's an amazing story. I mean, I feel like we should have you on. We have to have you on again and just tell your like whole story. I mean, because we should have Kadence back on, because I would love to hear more about, you know, the creative journey, because sometimes it's not as linear as everyone thinks. And that like now is like a perfect time for everyone to kind of like pick up their creative, you know, everything that they want to do creatively and like put it out there. And it's really awesome that like your new song is going to come out this week, and the summer's coming, and it's like outside music, and it's like everyone's ready to have a good time. So it's like it's super exciting for that to be coming out.
And you know what you said is it's exactly the heart of what I'm doing, because I spent 15 years, you know, raising kids, but I found myself losing myself because I stopped honoring who I am, you know, and that was stopping making music. So part of, if I can inspire one person who, like you're saying, maybe you didn't have the linear journey. I was 10 years in show business, and then I took a 15-year break. But you know, it's my call to write and produce music. It's a calling. It just doesn't leave my soul. So if we can inspire one person to pick back up their creativity and their dream, that would be amazing.
I love
that.
I
also love the message of like, it's never too late. Everyone's finish line is different. Everyone's starting point is different. Someone's on first base, another person's on third base, and it doesn't matter. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks, guys.
So now I'm really excited about diving into this, because I mean, obviously these songs were, you know, the originals of these songs are nostalgic, and now then also I don't know if you were a ska fan,
like ska punk guy.
Like, are you a ska punk fan?
No, not particularly. I mean, just not exposed enough.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like ska, like,
so,
just to let everyone know, Manny, why don't you let everyone know, like, the list.
Oh, yeah, we didn't tell it. We got so deep already that we didn't tell everyone. Guys, we're doing a list of ska cover songs. Yeah. So ska bands that covered a bunch of famous songs. The songs are I'm Gonna Walk 500 Miles, MXPX, 99 Red Balloons by Goldfinger, Smooth Criminal by Alien Ant Farm, Glory of Love by Newfound Glory, and Take On Me by Real Big Fish.
Yeah. These were some great covers. I mean, I feel like, you know, when I put this list together, there was a few others that I was thinking of, but I was like, when I heard them, I was like, these were the covers. Like, these were the cover songs that really kind of, during that time, like, ska punk bands were covering. And I feel like this was a moment in time where, like, punk bands and ska bands were doing a ton of cover songs. I mean, the Newfound Glory one, I mean, there was a whole album. They have like 3 cover albums. MXPX has like a ton of cover albums. And I feel like this was a thing, like covering these big songs. Now there's not too many cover songs.
Dude, well, you got to start off with, if you want to make a name for yourself, even back then, like, you know, there wasn't so much social media like it is now. Covering songs was like your best way to, first of all, get like, I don't want to call them cheap applause, but like, people, if you did a really good cover, like, people just wanted to hear it. Like, I went to a show recently before the shutdown at the Paramount. Real Big Fish, Newfound Glory was there playing just covers. They had come up with another new album, Dan.
Wow.
They did like Frozen.
What?
Like, they're talking, and it was, bro, it was awesome because you get 2 different groups now at these concerts. Really young kids, and then like the 35 to 45-year-olds who used to listen to ska and emo back in the day that still want to like be nostalgic, and everyone was wilding out, like wilding out, and so it was great. But I remember this time, Dan, like everyone was doing covers, so in a way they were being nostalgic, doing covers that they liked, and then like also showing their range of different, like, you know, different ideas of how to take a song and make it their own. And I like this test because I also got to like think of like a couple things, like the original song, and then whether or not I really like the ska band or not, or whatever band actually did the cover. So, But what did you think, Kadence? Like, so you're not a fan of, you weren't really a fan of ska, but I'm sure you know some.
Just not enough exposure. I mean, my past, My first 5 years recording was primarily rhythm and blues, R&B, soul.
Okay.
And so, but I always
nice.
loved, I mean, I'm such a connoisseur of music that I loved emo. I loved, some punk. I loved, pop music. I loved rock and roll. It was hard because I've always kind of been straddled across the genres,
Mm-hmm.
But no, I didn't have too much exposure to ska.
Punk
What's
music,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know any of the bands that are on here.
No, I don't.
No.
But
Okay,
I know
so
I
you
know
got
I
to-
know all the songs.
So
Yeah.
this is awesome because
I love
find
that.
this great because you're listening to it not like being tainted by like your fandom for the band. You're actually listening to it to like whether it was a good cover.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Like, did you
great.
enjoy? And you're a musician, so you like the art of like making music. How did the band do their job? Did they make it different? Did they make it their own? Was it even a good cover at all? So
That's right.
I'm loving
Yeah.
this because we get to dissect this in so many different ways. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
I'm
I
like
was a
fresh
fan
ears.
of all these. Like,
All right, so let's talk about the first one. So the first one we're looking at is I'll Walk 500 Miles by MXPX.
I'm gonna be the man who's coming home to you. And when I grow, yeah, you know I'm gonna be the
All right, so that's as much as we probably can get away with.
yeah,
But there you go. So MXPX 500 Miles. First impressions, we'll put it out there. What do you got?
I'm gonna let Cadence go first because I got a lot to say.
I
So-
actually really enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job. You could tell it. Obviously, it's a different singer. You can see hear the quality of the different qualities in the voice. But I personally do covers too, and I love the process of applying your own instinct to a song. So I don't want to hear a cover band do exactly what. I don't want them to get too far away from the song, but I also want to hear something new, something a little something different. And I feel they did a good job.
So you enjoyed it? Like
I did.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, I don't want it to be too much of the same because then, like, why not just listen to the same song?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't really do anything.
Right.
I agree that they did a good job of like making it their own. I don't know why. I think Dan, you said this is too personal to me because this was my wedding song,
Yeah.
and I had one of my best friends who's been on this podcast, who's a musician also. He sung this in a cover of version, like in a way that has also been covered by this band called Sleep No More, and they did it. They slowed it down, like and it was. It's a phenomenal song. I tear up listening to it. It's so good. And once this came on, I guess I'm tainted that I like that cover better than this cover. But it did remind me of like ska and punk when like you had that like guy with the high pitched voice and like the rushing of like and they did a good job of almost slowing down the song, but also like that drum beat. Dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
Like
I have to agree, but I there's one thing about this cover that and there was one thing about like I think all these covers from the punk side of the covers is that voice that from the 90s or from the late 90s early 2000s, that whiny like when I'm winging. Yeah, they all had that whiny. I mean, forget about it. When we get the Newfound Glory, I mean that's like their jam, that thing. But this one was weird because like I like the cover better than the original. The original is good.
I don't really
but
love the original.
The original's a little like, to me, the original reminds me of why I don't like tub thumping too much. There's something I mix those two things up. But
You need
like
to stop with that. Tub thumping is a
check
great
out a live
song,
episode we did
and
on
you
tub
take
thumping.
you need to take it easy on that.
But what's funny about this one was I was listening to it again right before we went on the podcast, and they jump into Surrender, I think at the end, right? Like they jump into another song.
Right in the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Towards not in the middle. Right at like I guess like 30 seconds left of the song.
Yeah.
They go into another song.
Yeah.
And I was like, were they bored? And they were just like, oh, this sounds like another song. And like,
Exactly. But that's what, I mean, think about what happened on our episode with Bryce, right? He was talking about bringing LaRue, that LaRue song into his cover set, right? And he said it sounded like he was going to play it along with Juice by Lizzo, and he kind of like went back and forth. I'm like, well, MXPX just found a way to kind of like put another cover inside a cover, and that was super smart. And you know, I agree with what you were saying, Cadence, and that idea of like, you want a cover that's going to both honor the song but also honor the artist. And I think MXPX, no matter what I have to say about MXPX, sometimes it's like they did that. Like they were able to do that. That was something that I thought was really, really clever.
All right. I mean,
You just
I
like,
mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't see. After hearing you guys talk about it, I'm like, okay, it wasn't that bad. I wanted to crap on this song. Like I normally do, like right before I talk to Dan, I'm always like, I can't wait to just tear this thing apart. And now, like you guys are saying, like, man, I can't really go against it. They did do a good job of making it their own. They made it punk. They made it ska.
Yeah.
And they added that, like, I'm gonna get drunk and come on. Like, I don't know, it's like getting drunk in the original song.
Dude, tell you the truth, I don't know what's in the original song.
I don't remember it. I remember the original song. I remember the original song really, pretty well. But
yeah.
I don't remember the drunk part.
Neither do I. So I was like, was that like a punk way of like making it their own? Like, we're punks. We do drugs and get drunk and
inserting the rebellion.
Right. And MXPX as like rebellious as they can be. But like I think like the Proclaimers, where the original I'm gonna be 500 miles, like they did have the line. There it is. I'm looking at the lyrics right now, and it says, "I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you."
Oh man,
right in the first verse. So it's right in the first verse, and so they definitely covered the lyrics pretty much to a T. The only thing that they did differently was add that extra cover inside the cover, which I think was my favorite part, because I think like about like halfway through it I was like, okay, but then when that happened I was like, oh, okay, you got me back.
But that's kind of like this song. Like in the middle of this song, like you're just like, okay. Like you got that, and you're like, okay, when this is over, unless you're at a wedding, of course, or like, and like everyone's like, and like you, 500 miles, like they're walking 1,000 miles. So like it's, Vanessa Carlton would come in with her piano, but
there's so many songs with miles in it.
I know. All right, so what are we thinking here?
Oh boy.
So
I'm on the fence.
The way we test this is we go, is it bad? Is it nostalgic? Or does it pass the test? To pass the test, that means you would listen to it like now.
Yeah, like it has replay
like you'd be like, yo, this is going to become part of my playlist. So like, I think for me personally that this just stays nostalgic. Like it makes me think of the original song. It makes me think of all the covers that this thing got. It does remind me of like MXPX. Like that voice reminds me of that singer. So like, I do want to go back to MXPX and see, like, do I still like MXPX? Like, I don't know.
Do you want to listen to an album with 21 songs on it?
But they're all the same. I don't know. So
yeah,
so I'm gonna say, in my opinion, this one stays nostalgic. It was good after talking to you two, like saying, well, you nice things you said about it. You got me to say that it's not bad, but it's not the first cover of this song that I would go for though.
Okay. I'm going to say it's nostalgic too. I don't think it has a lot of replay value for me. It just like, but it does bring me back to that moment where it's just like getting ready to go to the Warped Tour or, some other show. But MXPX is definitely like a band that I feel like was big when I was, when we were in high school, along with like Millen Collin, No Effects.
Yeah.
and a lot of these bands up here.
They didn't have a long replays values.
No, they didn't. They had like Warped Tour replay, and then that was the end of that. And then all of a sudden they were gone. But they're still touring, obviously. But like it's just like they didn't have the staying power of like a Blink-182, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna say it stays nostalgic. It's right on the fence though, because I'm definitely probably never gonna hear this song again, probably for another 10 years. I don't think it's ever going to come up again for myself. Cadence, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I'll go with nostalgic. It's not that I might not listen to it maybe once again, but it didn't do enough to re-energize it in me to want to hear it more and more and more, but it did bring back like, the good memory of the track. And then I enjoyed hearing it with a bit of a new spin on it. But if I had to choose, if you're making me own one of those three categories, I'm in the nostalgia zone.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So moving on to 99 Red Balloons by Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
off the bat, I'm just going to say this.
Go ahead. Manny.
Goldfinger makes me just reminds me of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. The one song that they had on there, I already forget, but that's all I remember about Goldfinger. Like, you know, I don't really. The song itself, damn, play a track, play part of it.
But all right, well, let me just put.
Oh, you're gonna fax it?
Yeah. So first, let's fax it. Let's get back to
Okay.
the format there, Manny.
I know we're all over. I'm all over the place. Shout out! I'm excited. Kadence is here. He's talking about doing his own covers. I want to hear what ones he's done. So let's go. Come on.
So
Get to
Goldfinger
it,
is an American punk rock and ska band from Los Angeles, California, formed in 1994. In their early years, the band is widely considered to have been a contributor to the movement of third wave ska, a mid-90s revitalization in the popularity of ska. So, and Manny, the song you're thinking of is definitely the song Superman, which was on the Tony Hawk game. That came out on their album Hang Ups in 1994. Around 1994. This, though, the cover of 99 Red Balloons, which originally was written by is a song by the West German NDW band Nina, probably mispronouncing that, from their 1983 self-titled album. So the English version, titled 99 Red Balloons, with lyrics by Kevin McAla, was also released on the album 99 Luft Balloons in 1984. Now, this is a hugely popular song. I mean, I've heard 99 Red Balloons. I've heard the original. I have this Goldfinger album that it's on, actually, which is Stomping Ground. That's one of the two Goldfinger albums that I actually own. And I listen.
You have an album, like you actually have this CD somewhere?
Yeah, I have this CD. It was huge. I bought the Stomping Ground album, and I listened to it all the time. And and this cover, I listened to this cover a ton of times. You didn't buy this album, Manny?
No, I probably recorded it off of somebody else's album. Remember there was a time like people were burning CDs for people? Me and Dave got into like charging people for songs that Dave had. So we burned a bunch of playlists for him.
Wow.
For them. I remember we bought like, you used to go to like Tower Records and buy like those blank CDs.
Yeah.
Like a whole case. And Dave and I had like a list of things, and Goldfinger was on there because Dave had the album.
Shout out!
So
to
I probably had like their songs somewhere, but I wasn't in love with this band. It's like I said, I played a lot of Tony Hawk, and
they were like a more punk version of like Everclear. Like they looked almost exactly alike. They had like the singer with the blonde hair, which is weird.
I felt like that they would have been. They were like, this is the song.
Yeah. That's from Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
The only reason I know it. And then I bought the album.
All right. So I felt like they were like the reason why ska might have almost been mainstream.
Really?
They were going to go there. And then they just fell off for some reason.
Yeah.
And there could have been a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe ska just doesn't get that push that like other genres do. Like Blink-182 is punk. That became like pop punk.
Well, you probably call it pop punk now.
But like ska never like got to that.
Ska never took off.
Z100 wasn't playing, No,
they'll play one song from the Boss Tones, and that was it.
Oh yeah, never
it.
knock. I would never knock on wood.
That song. Yeah.
Like
Kadence, ska, like, was that something that you? I remember we were talking like before we started recording. Like, your exposure to ska wasn't that much, but you heard this and you heard the Real Big Fish one as well. Like, is ska something that is interesting to you, or do you feel like ska is like this weird category that's like in the middle of two categories that's trying to like find an identity? Because that's how I find ska. It's like, what are we?
Yeah, that's how it came across as something kind of I don't use like undergroundish almost.
Mm.
You know, it's almost like, you remember house music?
Holy nostalgia.
You know,
Oh man, we remember house music. We did an episode that has not been released yet because of house.
Techno,
like,
yeah,
it was
yeah,
all
yeah.
over the place.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
you know, house
Yeah.
house took off in the clubs,
Mhm.
you know, and among certain listeners, but it never achieved pop.
Mm.
You know, it never went to full pop. And that's
Right.
and I want to say like it pop commercial almost, or punk
Right.
commercial. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so that's the way, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's the way I felt here too. I felt like I could feel I could feel them. I could feel what was being done, but I joke about myself, you know, I got blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm the whitest kid on the block, and I was singing soul music in New York City for 5 years. You know what I
Right, yeah.
mean? Today, thankfully, people's minds have opened a lot. You know, but in my first 5 years, you know, it was very difficult to look like me and break into the R&B scene, even though what I
I was
had,
gonna say, wow.
you know, I mean,
Yeah, in
even
that
though what
era.
even though what I had was credible, you know, and I mean, I sang at the Blue Angel in New York City, which is the sister club to the Blue Note, you know, and it's
Wow.
the soul club, and you know, you do not even think of getting on that stage unless you can bring it.
That's
you know?
right. Yeah.
So, but that's how I felt here too. It's kind of like it just never reached that place of full manifestation, or you know, or you know what I mean. It was like
Yeah.
it was birthed, and it's valid, and I enjoyed it, but I could feel how it just never went to that next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I find funny because like ska has so much going on with it.
There's
There's like
so much happening.
there's classical trained musicians in all of it. There's a trumpet player, there's a trombone player, there's probably a saxophone player, there's
Yeah.
a couple drummers, there's a singer. Like you can't sing that high pitched all the time and not destroy your voice if you're not trained correctly. Like the really good ones. So it's like it's not like the music is terrible. There's so much going on, but it just didn't
Yeah.
break. Like I agree with you. It doesn't break that like there's pop and then there's like it didn't get to that. And like I said, like the Z100 stage. Like if you get
Right.
on Z100, you popped. You're like officially mainstream pop. Like, you know.
For those
And-
of our listeners who don't know what the Z100 is, it used to be a radio. It's a
It was
radio
the
station.
radio station.
It's
Oh,
it was
yeah.
the radio station that like any song that meant anything would get played on. And if you got played on Z100, that was it. Like you got
You
played
made
like
it.
all day. Exactly.
Dude, imagine Blink-182 in our time. When they hit,
Oh,
they were on Warped Tour. They were with these guys. They were with
Yeah.
Goldfinger. And Z100 picks you up and plays your song.
yeah.
Like, you're in a different level of playability. Like, your producers are now like, what? Oh, you've been played on Z100? Like, Elvis Duran is like, you know, in the Radio Hall of Fame. Like, that guy
Oh my
is
God.
known everywhere. Like, that guy likes your song. You're getting paid a lot because that song's being played like 4
Yeah.
times in an hour. So,
Yeah.
like,
But
it's
with,
it was
with
it was
Goldfinger, like I always thought, like going back to this song, like they for this album they like abandoned their ska. Like it was just all like this was like more of a punk rock album. Because on Hang Ups, that album that was a ska album. This is not a ska album. This is a punk or a punk rock album, right? And just like thinking about this cover, I enjoyed this cover. To me, like I used to listen to this cover song all the time. This was my favorite song on the entire album. And at one point I totally forgot that this was even a cover song, and I thought that was their song because I was like playing it so much that when I went to the original song today and listened to the original version, I was just like, this is so hugely different than what Goldfinger did with the song. And like going back to what Kadence was saying about the MXPX cover, I feel like Goldfinger made this their own, right? Goldfinger made this song their own. And to me, it was fun. They didn't compromise on who they are as a band to make this cover.
I agree.
Manny is thinking like he is like I could say,
I liked it. I liked it. I like that they even put in the bilingual version of it.
That's
the
right.
German. It was done well. I don't
Yeah.
particularly love this song.
You don't like the original?
Nah, I never really. I'm not really into the 99. Red balloons. I don't know what it is. But I agree with you guys on like it was done really well. Kadence, you said it before, like, and I kind of want to ask you, like, when you go into like, I want to do a cover, you're doing it because you like the cover, or you're like, I like it, and I know that a lot of other people like it. It's a good way to like spread the word about yourself. Like, what like makes you want to do a cover?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, first of all, I have to love the song. So, like I did Al Green's "Let's Stay Together." We all know that song. I've loved that song since I was like 4 years old. You know, so and I believe it's a good song, and I believe people love to hear it. But I think at this point, I'm singing again because it's a part of who I am, and it's really important to me. Like when I was 18 to 23 years old, I was all about getting a record deal. And I became so focused on getting signed, because that's what you did back then, that's all I could think about was getting a record deal. And I forgot that I actually loved what I did. So at this point, I approach covers from a perspective of, do I love the song? Rather than, I mean, you won't see me do it. I will never sing a song because it's trending. Never. It's just, I don't think I could. I don't think I have that temperament,
I think it would come across because you probably have different passion singing it than when you sing a song you love, and people will see that.
Yeah.
So then you don't feel it. So the song's not that great because I'm not feeling the passion in the artist who's singing that song, because they're just singing it to get the money.
That's it.
The recognition.
Right.
Where if you actually love it and I could feel it,
that's what I'm looking for.
Feeling.
That's what I'm looking for. But I want to say about 99 Red Balloons, you might laugh, but I couldn't stop getting the visual of Molly Ringwald dancing, in Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
You remember when she's doing the Carlton? You remember?
Yeah.
I couldn't, I'm like, get
God.
that visual out of my head. I'm trying to listen to the song objectively.
No, man, that's why we bring it to the test, because if it does that, there's so
where
much
I'm going
that brings
with
us
this.
back to those times.
You know
Yeah.
where I'm going.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, like it always, to me, it's like I always tell Dan, like, a thing is so good and nostalgic, where like nostalgia has a way of like smell brings you back in time, and songs and movies visually, like there's so much to that. Like that song, you're even talking about that movie, and like when you were sitting down watching that movie, and like how great you felt watching, those movies back then. So it's always good when that happens. When it's like all of the nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like Dan has a drop. It's like, holy nostalgia. Yeah. And I'm sure that'll be dropped during
somewhere
the edits. Holy nostalgia.
And, I want to just shout out you guys, because doing this podcast and like focusing on the concept of nostalgia, I realized actually how important it is. You know what I mean? Like it's something I think everyone takes for granted. You might have a feeling of nostalgia, but, nostalgia actually really generates something good in us, oftentimes, and so that, I just want to give you guys a shout out for making this platform,
Well, thank you. When we started this podcast, it's like we, quarantine, and we're like, it's also a good way to like also speak, weekly. But then also like, as we were digging into these things, we were just like learning a lot about who we are now versus who we were. And I feel like when we do these song ones, especially, like it's really fun to kind of look and like, yeah, these are songs that we would listen to all the time and like be excited. And now when I hear them, sometimes I'm like, it just brings me back. But you know what? It's not gonna get the replay that I used to.
Yeah, but you know what?
But
what
that's
I like it.
That's what's so great about nostalgia, is that it reminds you of like good times when sometimes things are, looking pretty dark, but like it's like that little bit of light in that moment.
Right, but that doesn't mean it's going to revive it. It doesn't mean it's going to be, you're going to have a revival of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I know like a lot of people like stop living in the past or whatever, it's over, and I get that, but I think nostalgia also, like, it keeps people young. It keeps you like realizing, like, it doesn't matter how old you are, you could still enjoy things that like it makes you like. I always say this. There's a line in like Alice Wonderland, her muchness. She lost her muchness, like because you get at a certain age and you just get, life gets at you, and you just lose certain things. And I think, like,
totally
going back to your past and being finding all the nostalgia and like finding the good times and all that stuff can like bring back like some of the things that you need to like Kadence, you said it, like you're still going after this passion. Like you're realizing after all this time, you've seen it all at 18 years old. You were performing and singing, and you still want to do that now. And you're doing it for a different reason this time, and probably even feel so much better. And it's bringing that 18-year-old self out.
Yes, it is.
Like that child again.
Yes.
Like that must feel so good. Like the feeling that you get must be just like pure nostalgia all the time.
Yeah, that's it. I'm literally doing it.
Feel great.
That's it. I'm doing it because it's for me.
Yeah.
When you have life experience, how much greater can your creativity be? This time I'm just doing it for me. That's it. I'm just doing it for me. I have 160,000 streams on my first single. You know, I
Awesome.
mean, I've already succeeded, but that's like, you know, cherry on top. You know what I mean? That I actually got to have that many people listen to my song in over 70 countries in the world. You know?
That's amazing.
Because of the
That's
times
such a
we
great
live.
feeling too.
Yeah.
Because now you're also sharing that feeling with other people.
Yes.
And like you said before, you also want to show people like it's never too late. Like don't give up on that muchness. Don't give up on that thing that made you feel happy. And this is a perfect time to take a little bit break from the show, from this test, from these tangents. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a plug, Dan, if you don't mind. I'm one of the owners of Lithology Brewing Company, located in Farmingdale, New York. We're a New York Farm Brewery. We're a Nano Brewery. Come down. We got 12 rotating tap handles going. Go to lithologybrewing.com for more information, or follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Lithology Brewing. That's LITHOLGY Brewing. Thank you. Back to the show. So anyways, let's go back to this. Sorry, Dan. This is their tangents.
Hey, that's what this podcast is about. We, you know, someone on Instagram, I forget their name, but anyway, they asked like, "What is the format of your podcast?" And I commented, "Tangents." That's our format. Because we love to hear people talk, because it's like that's what podcasting is. It's a conversation, and sometimes those conversations go places that you didn't think they would go. I mean, that's the power, I think, of like nostalgic songs, right? Like, you know, we started 99 Red Balloons with that tangent, and look where it brought us, right? And so for me, like thinking of 99 Red Balloons, I would just, for me, say that personally, I think it passes my nostalgia test.
It's going to stay nostalgic for me. I don't think, I mean, if we were hanging out and you turned it on, I would enjoy it, but I don't think it, you know, I didn't like it enough to begin with as, you know, as a song for it to jump that hurdle. I enjoyed the Breakfast Club feeling that I got from it, and doing the Carlton with Molly Ringwald. You know, I enjoyed that. You know, but it stays in nostalgia for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with him. It stays nostalgic to me. I don't particularly love the song, but I'm glad that we got into that whole conversation and on that tangent because of it. Obviously, it does bring up nostalgic feelings. I just don't see myself like. It's not a song that I particularly love, and even the band that did the 500 Miles, Sleep No More, shout out to them. Sure they're listening to this podcast. They do a 99, and I love that band, and I still don't. I just can't get to that. I can't get this. This song doesn't do it for me.
All right,
next one, Dan.
All right, next one. We're gonna give a few seconds of this one just because to put it out.
Yeah,
there.
you got to play this one.
Yeah,
this is
we
one
go.
of my favorite ones.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Well,
yes.
We are talking about the cover of the Michael Jackson classic gigantic hit. I mean, I have so many memories of this song because like I have memories of that movie he did that this song was in, with who was it? Danny DeVito, I think, was in it, or someone like right, like it's
that was
like
an epic video.
Epic video.
Movie.
I love that video. The Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson, covered by Alien Ant Farm. This song you couldn't get away from when this came out. This was on the radio constantly. I mean, I think every time I turned on the radio, it just was on all the time. All the
video
time.
Too. The video too, Dan. This is like right when MTV had videos, and you saw it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that First Impressions. I was so happy that this was on the list. I was like, this is gonna be my favorite song on the list. I I can't say, MJ produced and came up with so many great songs. Anyone who covers their songs, you need to make this great for you to cover a Michael Jackson song. Like, you can't just cover a Michael Jackson song. No. Imagine covering Man in the Mirror.
No.
Okay. That's what? So these guys had to bring it, and they had to bring it hard and make it their own, and they did it amazingly, I think. Like, and when I listened to it again, I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, just like that intro you just played. It's like, like what? Like, this was more punk, obviously, than ska.
Yeah.
It was, I would say, this goes to what Kadence is like the pop punk. Like, this was mainstream.
Yeah. Yep.
This was Z100 all the time, even 103.5. KTU might have even played this, and that was a dance.
Oh my God, bringing it back to KTU and it was a dance station. Oh my God.
Because that's a dance station. That was like they played house, I think, like late. Like, they were playing some dance stuff that you only heard at clubs, but you had to be on that station at like 2:00 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
But like every once in a while they'd cross over and play like a rock hit.
Yeah.
Every once that was hit. I think they might have played this song on there. Because like you could easily then like move right into like a Michael Jackson song.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, so what do you think?
Oh, I absolutely loved it from the intro. I think they killed it. And let's say that, Michael Jackson was probably my greatest influence in my first 10 years of life. Like, I literally, my first job was cleaning a parking lot. Every day after school, I cleaned this parking lot. It was VJ's discount store. And at the end of the week, he let me pick out one Michael Jackson, memorabilia, the glove, the jacket, the parachute pants, the loafers,
Wow.
I had it all. So when I saw this on the list, I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." But I mean, from that intro, you just take off immediately with this song, and you never get let down. I didn't get let down the whole thing. I won't put the cart ahead of the horse here, but this was a good one that I really liked it.
What did they do after this? Was this their one-hit wonder? Like, cause like, I don't remember any other song that they've done.
Yeah, so Alien Ant Farm is an American rock band that formed in Riverside, California in 1996. They released 5 studio albums and have sold over 5 million units worldwide. The band's cover of Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal topped the Billboard alternative songs charts in 2001 and was featured in the film American Pie 2. Now, I think I'm going to look for some stats on that cover, but I don't even think I need to look for stats to know that this was probably their biggest hit. You know what I mean? Because it was one of the biggest songs by Michael Jackson. I mean, this is one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs. This is a huge song. So if you're going to cover this song, like everyone said, like, yeah, you got to make it big. And I think they did a really great job at covering the song. And so I do think that is the most recognizable Alien Ant Farm song. And I do believe it's probably one of the most recognizable covers. As a song, it's probably like one of the most popular Alien Ant Farm songs, if not one of the most popular cover songs.
No, I agree with Katie. It's like, it doesn't let you down the whole time. You are like high energy the whole time. You're thinking about the original song, but you're also getting into it like as its own song. Like everything, the little things that they put in there. Oh, it was so good. It was so good.
It was refreshing.
Yeah. And then the original obviously is like,
I listened to the original as well. I listened to the original when I was listening to this, and the original, it brought me back to the white hat, the white suit, that anti-gravity lean thing that Michael Jackson did in that video during that. Oh,
the video game. Remember he had an arcade game?
Of course. Of course I remember that game. That was the craziest game. The fact that like you could be Michael Jackson from Smooth Criminal in a game, but it makes sense because that video is like a whole movie. That was like one of those like big movie ones like Purple Rain. One thing that I would say about this, and I know like it had like high energy and everything, but when you listen to the original actually had like dips and valleys and like in the way it was kind of composed. And though I think like Alien Ant Farm made it their own, a part of me was like, as I was listening to the original, still preferred the original. I mean, obviously, because it's like, but actually for some of these, I don't prefer the original. But I would say like this one, I do prefer the original, but they came out the gate like with energy. I'm a big heavy metal fan, so like to me, I was like thinking they're not letting up. This is like a Slayer song. Like they're literally just starting the song. They're not gonna stop. There's gonna be no dip. There's no valley. They're just like, we're here, and then it's over. And that's how you have to do that cover, because you can't let up. A heavier guitar riff in Smooth Criminal was really awesome to kind of hear.
And I think that's what made it their own. The fact that it was this high impact and sustaining, intense journey. It didn't have any loops, you know what I mean? Like Michael Jackson had loops. This was just more, you're flying. You're flying. I enjoyed that. And I went into it not really expecting to hear something like I heard. And I was so biased because Michael Jackson is was one of my legends, one of my heroes. I'm surprised I like it so much because I'm so MJ, loyal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you. I'm in the same way. Like, I agree that I prefer the original, but I don't hate this song at all.
To me, like, I compare this cover with like the Atari's cover of like Boys of Summer, and I'm like, I rather listen to the Smooth Criminal cover by Alien Ant Farm than the Boys of Summer cover by the Ataris. I feel like Alien Ant Farm did a way better job with their cover than I would say than the Ataris did, but
and
that's neither here nor there.
Last thing I think is, it speaks to the credibility and the substance of the original, because you can't take a shitty song and make it amazing, but
No.
you have a great song, and then you have another talented group of musicians tackling it.
So, guys, if you like Nostalgia Test Podcast, please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe and like.
Follow us on all social media outlets that you can find us and where you can get podcasts. Podbean, Spotify, Apple. I mean, there's nothing more I could say. That this thing passes to me. This passes the test. It also makes you think of that song. And if we ever had to test MJ, like blows the nostalgia test out of the water. The Smooth Criminal. Like, it's too good. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is like I came in here first going, I'm just gonna say I didn't really like it, and I'm gonna make it more just as nostalgic. But like again, this happens with Manny. Like after having a discussion, I'm just like, you know what, this was a really good cover. And even if I'm not gonna listen to it again that much, I can't deny that it was a good cover. Like I can't objectively and subjectively say that this was a bad cover and that it doesn't have replay value. It definitely 100% does. So I'm gonna say it definitely passes the nostalgia test.
It passes the test for me too.
All right.
Oh my God. All right.
Dan,
so we're
let's
getting
do
to
it.
this weird part. To me, this is the weirdest song on the list for me. And it is the cover of Peter Cetera's Glory of Love by Newfound Glory. Manny, first impressions.
I love Newfound Glory. They do a really good. They have like, I think that half of their albums are cover albums. It's one of their better covers. First impressions is that I don't really love the song, the original song, but I do love what movie it makes me remember, and that's Karate Kid.
Karate Kid, yeah.
So for this Glory of Love original song makes me think of Karate Kid, which makes me think of Awesome Times, which is a great movie, and now they got Cobra Kai, so brings me into that whole worm of nostalgia. But I don't hate or love this song because it also just makes me remember, like, it's really his voice. Like, it's so high pitched, it's so fast. And if you listen to the album, they all kind of sound the same because his voice is so distinctive. Like, that high pitched voice is that you can't get rid of it. And that was Newfound Glory. Like, it's this guy's voice. Like, he's like true. What would you call this, Dan? This is like emo ska?
This is like emo punk. I don't know. It's like
Emo
weird
punk.
emo type of punk, but I don't know, man. This song, This is another album that I owned. I mean, I think everyone I knew owned this album of cover
Yes.
songs. It was like one of those really big cover albums. They have several cover albums, but this was the one with the Never-Ending Story on it, the Goonies cover, the I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. This was a big cover album, and I think the
Great cover album, and I butchered the name, not to interrupt you, Dan, but I had to because I butchered the name while you were away. It's called From the Screen to Your Stereo.
yes,
So
yeah.
check it out. It is a really good cover album, but Dan, you're not. It's the one of the favorite songs on the album. Like if you look up Apple,
Yeah.
it's a star on this, and I think it's because people also love the song because they love the movie.
Did you listen to the original?
I didn't because I don't like the original. I was saying that while you stepped away. To
Oh,
Cadence
poor Peter
that
Cetera. But,
I only like the original because it makes me think about Karate Kid, and then it makes me think.
yeah.
That's the only
Yeah,
reason. That's the only reason.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know, man. I had so many internal conflicts with listening to this song. I was like, because this is an album, again, like I said, I listened to it all the time. I had it. But his voice is, I think at this point in my life, when I hear his voice, I was just like, I couldn't deal with it. And it's so low. It's so badly mixed and produced. This album sounds like they like produce it inside a cardboard box. Like our first episode of this podcast, Cocktail. Everyone go listen to it. But like, it sounds like it was like recorded inside a cardboard box. Like I was just like, it sounds so weird to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being like, but we played this all the time. These are the reasons like we're going back. It's just like, these are songs we played constantly. Newfound Glory. I mean, well, maybe just a handful of their songs.
We only liked a handful of their songs.
Yeah.
They're not. It's funny because like I said, I went to a concert recently and they were there, and I was moshing. Like this is right before the pandemic.
Moshing with Newfound Glory.
And I was like, I almost lost my shoe, and I was like, are they that good? Like I'm just.
That's gonna be more.
While you're looking for your shoe, you're like, are they that good?
and like I have to say, Cadence, we said it before, you can't do a cover song for a money grab, and I think this was definitely a money grab.
Oh,
like the whole album was a money grab. What did you think, Cadence? Where me and Dan are shitting on this song?
Yeah,
I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it was a shock to my system. You know, I was a Karate Kid fan. I got to admit it, Cobra Kai fan. I was a little set in my preference, even though as a song, like I mean, I had to sing this song in high school and I didn't like it. You know, so I had a good amount of experience with the song. So I always like to hear something. I do like to hear something different done, but it was a little weird for me. That's the only, you know, I don't know that I have the right adjective for it. But
no, I think it was very immature.
Yeah, awkward.
High school.
A little awkward.
I do like one part.
What?
Is when they stop playing and everybody's just I am the man, as if they were at a concert. And I'm like, it's so sad that I like the part where everyone but that guy is singing and there are no instruments being played. Right. It's just like a cappella.
This is like one of those things. It was so out there. It's like either it's going to hit it or it's going to really miss it.
I think it hit it at the concerts because it's hitting your nostalgic feeling of Karate Kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were drawing on that.
Yeah.
And if you go to a concert when they're playing these songs, because like I said, they're up to album number 3, and like he even dresses up like Elsa, from Frozen, and he's singing "Let It Go," and it's now one of their biggest hits. And I think it's because first of all, that song is a big hit, and people were just find it funny that he's singing that song in a emo punk version. I don't necessarily think they love the song.
I'm looking at the facts on the original song, and it's like the Karate Kid Part 2. That's a weird Karate Kid, and but the one thing that I found funny about
it's a really weird Karate Kid
because all the Karate Kids,
he
one thing
almost dies in it.
Yeah, one thing I noticed about every Karate Kid,
and he got married.
Yeah, one thing I remember that reminds me of that I remember about every Karate Kid movie is like Daniel gets the shit kicked out of him in every one, and in Part 2 he gets beat to a whole it's unbelievable. And then Karate Kid 3, they beat him up again. I'm like, dude, is he that good? Like he
Dude,
should be called the Karate
2
Kid.
Karate Kid 2 was like watching two gladiators. Okay, people were watching two people almost die in the middle.
They look like they were fighting in like the Temple of Doom. Like I was just like, what is happening? When I saw that as a kid, I was like, what is going on here? And this song is the theme for that song. It's like one of the big songs. Like, where did this get played? Probably just the credits. I mean, probably just at the credits, but unreal. I would love to see this just played with the Newfound Glory music. If like you put Karate Kid 2 and it's just like, like,
Well, you know what this reminded me of? Out of all things in the movie, all I could think about after I heard this cover was they were hitting the drums and they were all chanting.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
You're right.
And I'm like, how is that still in my subconscious memory? I need to go for some psychotherapy.
No,
Yeah,
man.
when they were like doing that thing with the
scene
drums,
is crazy.
Like, oh God. And then literally he always does a move that just looks not like karate.
It's not karate. He was surviving.
Yes.
He was surviving at the end, man.
Yeah.
That wasn't a karate move, and he got his inspiration from the drums, where he's just swinging both of his arms at the dude. There was no karate anymore. He was just like, it's either me or him.
Did they expect him to kill him at the end of that movie? Like it looked like Bloodsport, where like he was supposed to.
Yeah,
kill him.
I think it was gonna happen, but then they realized it was rated PG, and they had to end it with
Pull it back. Pull it back. It's
like,
PG.
And that's a nostalgia test tangent.
So did Newfound Glory do this well?
I say no. I don't even want to call it nostalgic, to be honest. I'm not gonna say it's totally bad. I don't see myself listening to this again.
So it's not even nostalgic anymore.
No, I think I'd much rather just like watch Karate Kid 2 and then do that test. But yeah, I don't know. I sung it like once or twice, and I was playing it most of the time when we do these tests. I put it on repeat while being at the brewery doing something.
Shameless plugs.
It's LITHOLGY Brewing. I was like 2 and done. I was like, I can't with this anymore. So
yeah, I'm gonna agree. I don't think it's nostalgic anymore. I'm not gonna say it's bad because it's not a bad song, but I'm just not gonna play it. It might come up on my Spotify every now and then, or I might just go, just for like, some sort of funny kick. I'll like listen to like 30 seconds of it, but it's, even though it's a short cover, it was long. So I kind of don't think I'm going to be returning to this. I'm going to say it's not even nostalgic anymore.
I concur. I concur. Yeah, I concur.
Weirdest sounding song on this album.
Yeah, weird, awkward, and bringing me back to like the death chant scene in Karate Kid 2.
Oh man!
All right.
Well, we're
Dan,
here
next
in
one. We're
gonna play like
this
a
song
few
first.
seconds of this one because I mean,
I wish we could play it all.
Oh, this was a good one.
We are finally at our last one. Thanks for sticking through. It's "Take on Me" by Real Big Fish, one of my favorite ska bands.
Yes.
I have definitely seen them at the Paramount and enjoyed every moment of it.
It's just so happy.
It's so happy. I mean,
ska is just real ska is just like a happy sound. It's like Steve Martin said in his comedy album, you can't play a sad song on the banjo. And I think you can't play a sad ska song. I think it's nearly impossible for this to be like, all right, we're going to play a real sad ska song. It's impossible. If it's sad, it's not ska. That's a sticker.
I totally agree. First of all, great cover. A lot of people have covered this song.
MXPX.
I'm glad we chose this one. It's, first of all, a great song. Second, out of all the bands that can define ska, this is like one of my favorite ones. Like, always high trumpets, always like the horns are destroy all the time. And like, I also remember Bryce used to cover this song, and I always made him play it because I'm like, yo, play "Take on Me," or he always played their other song called She Has a Girlfriend Now.
Yeah. She
has a girlfriend now. Oh man, Real Big Fish is just so good, and they did such a great job with this. And "Take on Me," I mean, how many movies has that been?
Oh
in?
my God.
So
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Who?
Either of you.
Okay.
That's gonna be more.
I mean, I loved it. I mean, to me, like, that's why I think, like, when we were putting together the list, when I was putting this list together, and I was like, this has to be on it. But at the same time, I was looking and was like, oh, MXPX covered this. But this is the cover. Like, to me, like, Real Big Fish does the cover well. And not just well, like, they did what Alien Ant Farm did, right? They stayed kind of true to like the music, like into the song and to like the energy of the song, but then they made it their own by making it ska and making it Real Big Fish. And his voice, after listening to like Newfound Glory, and then I put on Real Big Fish, I was like, oh, it's just like, it's not the pitch, because I like Rush. So if you listen to Rush, Geddy Lee has a high voice, but there's just something of the whininess of that vocal that like was so popular that like listening to Real Big Fish was like, oh, thank God. I was like, it's just so, it like eased my ears a bit, and I was like, I love this song.
Yeah, this was another real, from the beginning, just that high energy, and I love the original. I do. I love the original. And it's interesting because the original it's an up song,
Oh yeah.
but it's not musically driven like this one, like this cover. So, and
Right.
like you said, I mean, as soon as the horns come in, you know exactly what song you're listening to. And so I love that. Because in the beginning, you don't know what you're listening to, but then as soon as the horn section kicks in, you're like, it's Take On Me. So I think it just took that, there was like a little bit of like sorrow in the original one in a sense, because just the quality of the timbre of the lead singer's voice, it had that, it had
Right.
almost a dreariness to it. But that was eliminated here, and it just made it like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
definitely. You're smiling when you hear this song.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
Like, it's
just
smiling the whole time.
because you're thinking of that video, right? Like with the pencil drawings that like Aha, like when in the original Aha's 1984 version, you remember that video of just like the pencil drawings and like moving through that video, which won a lot of awards. And this song has been in so much other pop culture. I mean, it was, according to Wikipedia, it's appeared in the 1997 film Grosse Pointe Blank. It was in an episode of South Park in 2002, an episode of The Simpsons in 2005. I mean, in Family Guy, this is one of those songs that just appears everywhere, kind of like Two Princes by the Spin Doctors, which is like, that's in everything. This has showed up in a lot of other popular culture, and it's just a song that's perfect for a cover. And I think a ska cover is like really what's called for, in my opinion, for when you to cover this song, because it's already a synth song, so you want to like bring it to a whole different genre. And I feel like ska is like such a great genre to kind of do the cover of synth pop song. So like it kind of gives it a whole other feel, but it can still do what that synth pop does.
Oh yeah, definitely, I agree. This blew it out, in my opinion, probably my favorite one. That's why I left it to the last one, because Smooth Criminal, although it was great and high energy also, but this was just because the band does it for me. This is a happy genre.
Mm-hmm.
Even like there's even like some like reggae, like it's so good.
Yeah,
it's just done so well.
Yeah,
this is like a lesson of like, hey, do you listen to ska? Like, no. What's ska? Oh, hold on. Click. I'll be coming for you, I'm okay. Take on me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think like that's the thing, like ska, like in the beginning of the podcast we were talking about ska and like kind of like how it's lost in this like, what is it? There are some bands that do it really well, and I think Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake, I mean, these two bands, to me those two bands have like really amazing ska bands.
Yeah.
And not to forget that like No Doubt, when No Doubt started, No Doubt was a ska band, and so No Doubt was also really popular, really powerful ska band until they evolved into what No Doubt became. But Real Big Fish, I mean, is a great ska band from Orange County, California, and who also during that third wave of ska, which Goldfinger was part of, but they kept ska instead of Goldfinger going into other genres, kind of, and like going away from ska and like staying in like punk or rock.
It'd be interesting to also see like why producers don't push ska on mainstream. Like you get Blink-182, and Blink-182 didn't really have horns, or like even Green Day. But like once you bring up horns like this with ska, like why didn't it break it? Like Real Big Fish is a really popular ska band. Like I'm sure they've done really well for themselves.
They have a great following.
They have great following. They got to split the money 11 ways because it's like a horn for every note. But why didn't it get to? Why doesn't it get to that?
Well, I feel like there was like a whole push to this idea of like how much ska sucks, and then like ska took that on as like its own thing. It was like, well, we're gonna flip this and we're gonna use it, But I think like people just didn't like it. There's something that I think people just hate that sound, and they just think.
Like, would you say Sublime is close to ska?
No. Well, they're just California. I think a lot of bands from California during that time also had that like reggae thing going, like that reggae influence. So also they had like that same guitar riff going. So I think like they kind of sounded similar, but I think Sublime moved away from that and they were like their own thing. 311, they're not, I mean, that's a rock band from California. Like these are like, I think California has also a very specific sound. It's funny because when I moved to LA and I went back and listened to 311, I was like, I get it now. Like in New York, I liked 311, but like when I was outdoors in November and it was like beautiful and I'm playing 311 and I'm just like, I get it. Like I get it now. Like this is what this music is for. This is where it comes from. Ska doesn't have the momentum. They don't have like that big, they had that one big group, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. And I think they just didn't do it well. Like they did it well for like an album, maybe. And then it's just like, maybe the creativity just wasn't there. Who knows?
Yeah, I think I agree.
Yeah.
Mighty Mighty Boss Tones was their breakout band.
And they really, whatever.
Do you think ska could, do you think in a future time, ska could possibly, emerge and find a greater reach?
I don't know. I mean, let me ask you. You weren't really into it. After hearing this song, do you think you would get into?
I think I could.
Listening to more?
I do think I could, yeah.
I mean, I think with the more ways of getting music now, maybe there could be a bigger reach, but I don't know. Like, I think what popular music right now is just rap and pop music. I don't know if ska fits into it for some reason. I don't know why. Well, I don't know why.
I think because rock doesn't fit in at this point. Like rock is having such a hard time kind of like emerging, right? I mean, I think Manny, you and I talked a little bit about this on another episode, and we talked about like, well, what rock band really is there? And we landed on like the Killers, and them being like, to me, I would agree, almost like the last gigantic big rock band, like from the early 2000s or whatever, that is still around, putting out great albums, putting out great music, and they have a wide reach. A band like 311,
you could say Bastille, but like,
yeah, but I think people just hated ska so much. Like I think the punk scene just was like no, like, and I think there was such a in battle,
such a territorial thing.
Oh yeah, when I went to the Warped Tours, like the ska bands, everyone was just like, "Oh, here we go," because it's like it's a fun music and it's making fun of itself. I think with ska, it knows both. Like it wants to have fun, it doesn't take itself seriously, but they do the music well. Where like with punk and even like early 2000s or late 90s punk, like it was more of you can make it more anthemic. Like you can't make these songs anthemic, I guess, or they don't want to be, or it just is like so specific.
People don't want to be that happy.
Right. Yes. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think you have a point there.
They're like, we want melancholy, sad songs about breakups.
Yeah.
You're talking about breakups, but you have horns and trumpets behind it. You're like,
right. Yeah. People want their emo. They want their goth. They want
exactly.
No.
Yeah. Could ska, with the resources out there today and the reach, the ability to, you don't need to have the management, the record label, the A&R, the distribution, the radio stations. Today you really can carve a path for yourself. I wonder if the resources of today would have benefited them, back in their high point. I think so.
Yeah, maybe like put a ska TikTok song, because you could definitely do some crazy videos with those horns and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, one thing is
interesting.
One thing I'll say is like one band that like has done well, and they're not ska, but like they were in that California, and I keep bringing them up, is 311. Like they have an audience, a very very loyal following, and they do their own tours and they've, create their own products and stuff like that. And they know who their audience is. So they're just like, they play to their audience. Every member of 311 is still in that band since the beginning. And the thing is, like, they just do what they do and they just keep making music for their audience. And if more people listen to it, they listen to it. But I think for bands like that, like ska bands and rock bands like that from that era and everything, when you finally accept the fact that like your audience is this audience, let's make music for them, but then hopefully other people come in, you start making really great music. Because I think some new 311 is really great, but I think they just know who they are and they just know what they want and they just put it out there. I think with ska, hopefully that's what bands are doing. I mean, Less Than Jake is still touring and they're still killing it. So I think like they just put new albums out and they just see who's going to come. And I think it's just not going to break because right now it's not in the conversation, the idea of like rock or ska or punk. I mean, it's just not the most popular thing. People, I guess, can't dance to it really and things like that, so I mean, I don't know.
You do dance very weirdly to ska.
Yeah, you just flail around.
He just flail, yeah. So it's not really a club hit.
No, it's not
really
a club hit.
Like you're not playing it at a bar, I guess.
Well,
yeah,
you play it at Lithology.
Litholgy Brewing. I read a book recently about like entrepreneurship and like finding your clientele and like always taking care of them.
Yes.
And as long as you're taking care of them, you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And the rest happens.
Yeah.
And normally what will happen is that more people will know that you're taking care of people and they'll want to listen. So I guess like what you said, like with 311, it's like we know where we are, we know where we stand, we're making music for these people. And then more and more people probably came in and now they've obviously, if they're still original band members now.
Oh yeah.
They've done really well as a career.
Yeah.
They didn't need to be the pop star that was around for a moment. They were like, we're making hits and we're making amazing music and we're going to constantly make amazing music. And we got even better because we've had, how many albums did 311 have?
A ton.
Like you're talking about 10,000 hours.
Yeah,
They put
so
in like
many albums.
100,000 hours. Like, and if you've ever gone to a 311 show, it's tight. It's like,
oh yeah,
that drum solo that they've been doing for years.
They're
It's
great.
like, even though they've been doing it for years, when I've heard it twice and I'm like, I can't wait to hear that again live because they're so good at it.
Yeah.
Just like, our guest right now, and he's probably taking that on now is saying like, I'm just doing it because I love it. So, and look how many views you got from your first week out?
My first 4 weeks. Yeah, we had 160,000 streams. Singles broken. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that's a nostalgia test tangent.
Wow.
That's
so
great.
Real Big Fish, Manny, real quick. I'm saying it passes the nostalgia test.
Passes.
Passes.
There we go.
Nice.
Yep.
Wow. So we just
All right.
tackled the list of ska punk covers.
I didn't think we were going to get this deep with ska and punk.
I feel like with every podcast
we always get
episode,
deep.
we get deep, and the
we're
tangents.
deep people. Dan, we're not shallow.
the tangents are amazing. This episode was just like it's so many amazing things happen in it. I can't wait to.
And we didn't think we were going to bring anything to the table with a musician here, but I thought we did. I thought it was great, and I loved hearing your story.
Yeah,
I loved that you're back at it. And so the new single comes out
June 4th.
this week.
June 4th. Sign me up.
awesome.
June 4th.
Yeah.
And what is it called?
Sign me up.
And is there going to be an album soon, or is there just going to be a couple of singles?
We have 2 more singles lined up for after Sign Me Up. So I have a June 4th, a July 11th, and an August 13th. Dropping 4 singles first, and then hoping to have acquired what's needed to take it to the next level and drop an album.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Cadence, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me,
This was
guys.
so much. Oh, this was so much fun. And yeah, why don't you tell our audience where they could find you, where they could follow you?
Yep. So you can. I have a website, Kadence13.com. Instagram. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok, and I have a YouTube channel. So on the YouTube channel, just to briefly answer, I started to do covers, because it takes time to put out a single. You can't just, I can't just write a song and put it out. So
Right.
from the writing to the putting out is probably like 2 months, but wanting to begin to find people who would resonate with me, I thought I would start to cover some of my favorite songs. So I've got like 10 songs on my YouTube channel that I covered. And Broken is there as well, my original first single, and Sign Me Up is June 4th. So Apple Music, Spotify, all the streaming platforms.
So you write and produce and sing the song.
Well, I co-produce. The producer of Broken and Sign Me Up is Brandon Van Allen. So, and we co-write and co-produce. It's funny because he's in Texas and I'm in Virginia. So we collaborate via Zoom.
Wow.
So I record here and then I send it to him. Then he joins me and then he's pretty intense. He's amazing, but he pulls the best out of me. And he's such an incredible musician and he's got such an amazing ear that if I'm like the slightest bit flat on a note, he's like, we got to take that again. We got to take that again. Because he's a voice coach, he'll tell me what I'm doing wrong. You know what I mean? Why I'm singing it wrong, why it's not coming out right. So it's an incredible collaboration, and I definitely would not be where I am without him.
Oh, wow. That's so amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys.
And thank you for coming on, and we'll
Anytime.
put all of, oh, well, we're gonna make that happen then, because we're gonna put
You can make him test the Karate Kid.
all of
Or,
Cadence's. We're gonna put all of Cadence's social media and the website and YouTube page will be in our show notes, so you can check everything out. And thank you everyone for listening. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on these 5 cover songs, songs from ska and punk bands. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? Follow us on Instagram at The Nostalgia Test, on Facebook at The Nostalgia Test. Join the email list on the website at thenostalgiatest.com and suggest a test. We're always looking for new ideas for a show, new ideas for a test. You can click it right there on the website. We have some amazing
Snap
episodes.
bracelets.
Well, I have a snap bracelet, but we have some amazing episodes coming up, so stay tuned. And thank you everyone for listening. And once again, thank you, Cadence.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. All right.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please subscribe to the Nostalgia Test podcast to know when new episodes drop. Don't forget to leave us 5 stars and a positive review so more people can find the podcast. Share your thoughts and memories on today's topic on our Twitter at Nostalgia Test and on Instagram at The Nostalgia Test. Tune in next time because you never know what pop culture will pop up on The Nostalgia Test.